Hello, everyone. Let me know if you see me. All right, let's just see. All right, I see myself. Let me know you see me if you are just popping in here. Let's just see here. All right. This is live number 16, 116, not live number 16. That would be 2 years ago. I see Oshone just gave me a heart. She has found me. I see Sherry, Debbie, Jennifer, Claire, and Vivian, and 23 other eyeballs. Awesome. Drop a hello if you're joining me here or watching from YouTube. I love knowing who's watching with me. So drop a hello. And I see Rebecca, Tammy, Cindy, and Carrie. Awesome. All right. So this is live number 116. What does macros have to do with it? The key to a lean and sculpted physique. So I haven't done a macros live for a very, very, very long time, actually, just because I go in seasons. I feel like some seasons I'm talking a lot about macros. Some season I talk a lot about belly fat. And then here I'm kind of coming back to like sculpted physiques. I'm kind of on that train right now, sculpted physiques. So how many of you, just have a show of hands, really understand your macros? Like you feel like you have like good macro understanding or you don't have good macro understanding? Or some of you might be like, I have no idea what you're talking about when you say macros. So how many of you say you have really good understanding of macros? Put it below. Who says you have medium understanding of macros, and who thinks they have no idea what macros are? Put it below. Hi, Simone. Good to see you. And Charlotte and Louisa. Okay, so if you're new here while people are responding in, welcome to the Fierce Women community where we sculpt powerful bodies and champion mindsets. And so I mentioned this in my topic, post yesterday that Susie says, I understand my macros. Good. Tammy says a little bit. Jennifer says good macro understanding. Rebecca says no idea. And Claire says medium. So we can see we have a wide range of people here. And it's expected. I have some people who literally say, I don't even know what you mean when you say macros. So it's kind of why I ask. And then we have some that are competitors, or you've been doing macros a long time. And so you're like, I understand it. I just want to tweak my knowledge in it, right? So there's going to be some for everybody here. To be honest, I still go into some basics of macros at the beginning, and then I go through sort of like why you want to know how to adjust your macros. And then I go into specific things you have to be paying attention a little bit more as a woman and as you age as well. So it's kind of cover all the gamut. So whether you have no understanding of macros or you have a lot, you'll still gain a little bit out of today. So I see none. Charlotte says I have none. Awesome. We will help you with that. So let's start with some wins. So first of all, I want to say thank you for everyone's interest in the 21-day anti-inflammation system. It was an awesome launch because we launched that as a new course, which was something I worked on for a long time. And I'm so excited for the 16 women who have chosen themselves. And I'm going to name off their names, but just right now in the private group, they are posting about all the things they struggle with inflammation and never realize how much inflammation affects their body or the diseases or the things they felt they never could connect it to inflammation. So it's actually really cool to see how much, even just the start of the course, they've learned. And so these 16 women, I want you to give them lots of hearts. The 16 who are doing the 21-day program is Lynn Holwell, Tracy Leung, Cindy Hutchinson, Elizabeth Chapman, Sandy Young, Kathy Machalico, Lisa Bailey Wilson, Amber Tucker, Lisa White, Angela Thody, Leanne May, Wanda Roy, Sherry Shaw, Alicia Peters, and Carolyn Bowden. So super, super pumped for all of you. And just, I know you're going to learn so much. And if you are on module 3, let me tell you, if you're on module 3 right now, you're probably going to be like, OMG, like, I know yesterday some of you already said I did not know some of this stuff. And so if you are in the 21-day program, and you are starting to learn some things or have some revelations, drop a heart below, to kind of let us know that you're really gaining some things from this 21-day program. We are going to, it's always going to go 21 days, and we are going to start to probably uptake for another round probably in August. So if you don't want to miss that next 21-day program launch, then you want to drop 21 below to learn more about inflammation markers. I am going to talk about inflammation markers today a little bit too, but yeah, if you don't want to miss that next one, drop 21 below, okay? We are also on week 7 going to week 8 of the FFF group coaching program. And so we're really excited for these ladies. We're giving them a few more weeks. So we're going to help them a little bit and really give them that extra boost. But we are in the process of uptaking. We're going to start the process of uptaking for the FFF group coaching program. So if you don't know what the FFF group coaching program, that one is more specific to macros. Okay. So inflammation, you have to first address. I say it's the first level problem you must address. If you want to bring down bloating, digestive issues, and balance your hormones a bit better, inflammation has to be addressed. But as you will learn today, if you don't know your macros, macros is going to be where the key is in continuing to reduce fat in your body and build muscle. So if you want to understand your macros to a greater level, this is where FFF group coaching program comes into play. So if you want to learn more about FFF group coaching, put FFF below, as well as we are going to start to uptake for that. Hi, Beate. I see lots of 21, 22, Wanda. Wanda's ready for the next version. Wanda, I haven't developed version 22 yet. So but 21 will be great. And we see all the people putting 21 in. So we will note you down for sure. So, all right. Let's start first with baseline macros. Okay. So let's start with basics. And for some of you, this is basic, but you have to remember some people do not know it. So I'm going to start there. So your macros are your big building blocks of your body. And it is what your body needs to survive. If you don't have these elements in your body, it's really hard for your body to be healthy and whole, okay? So you have protein, carbs, and fat. So we're gonna start first to talk about protein. I want you to think of protein as, I always say, the bricks of your house, right? They are the building blocks, the structural blocks of your body. So they're important for building, like, the cellular structure of your body, the muscles, the tissues, the connective tissues, like all the building blocks of your body. And protein is specifically made up of amino acids, okay? And how these amino acids are arranged produces the specific type of protein in your body, like collagen. All of you in your menopausal years are talking about collagen and what it does for your body and your skin. That's a type of protein, right? Keratin, that is needed for healthy hair, is a type of protein, right? Myosin, actin, which is in your muscles, those are all types of proteins, right? So these structural elements of your body, they're different based on just how the amino acids are arranged together. There are 20 amino acids out there that our body needs, and there's 9 that our body cannot produce on our own. That's why they're called essential amino acids, and you have to get those from your food. Okay, so I'm just going to name off 6 roles of why protein is really, really important. Susie says, please send me a live via messenger. Okay, afterwards, we always work on replays. So not to worry. If you put replay, we will be helping to send it to you. So there are 6 key roles to protein. So there's a structural role. So in terms of, like I said, the building blocks of tissues and organs and all of that. They also have a enzymatic role. So that's number 2. So the enzymes in your body are actually protein. So you have to remember, you have to have enough proteins and the right amount of protein to have good enzyme production in your body. And a lot of the enzymes, not just in your gut, but are in your gut. So having good enzymes is really important. Proteins also have a transport role. So they help transport things like oxygen and nutrients and hormones. So again, you need lots of those types of proteins. They have an immune role. So a lot of the proteins, like your white cells and your T cells, and those things help fight off infections in your body. And it has a hormone role. So some proteins act as hormones. So they're chemical messengers. So yes, we're on top of fat. Fat is a huge component of hormones, but you need protein in there as well. And then lastly, I told you that proteins are also contractile proteins that are in your muscles. So because they play such an important role, obviously they're needed in your body at a pretty sufficient level. And I think most people know that. And just a quick note of, well, what proteins and all of that. Well, anything like meats or seafood or tofu, even nuts and seeds and some legumes have protein in it. Although I will say not all, thanks for the hearts. Awesome. I see lots of hearts. Not all plant proteins are complete. And so you want to be particularly cautious of that, because if you eat more plant-based, you just have to be more aware of that and make sure that you're not falling short on the types of proteins that you have in your body. And often I find sometimes if you're not well aware and you're kind of doing too much, maybe on the plant side, you could spike more of a carb side, because a lot of plant-based proteins have a higher carb ratio, like beans and stuff like that. So just being careful of that. But those are some basic protein roles and examples. Now, the next one is carbs. So carbs, I always say, like out of the, like, we have the bricks, right? But you need the workers. So I want you to think carbs are the energy system of your body, right? So if you actually have all the bricks laying around, but no workers, good luck. You can't build the house, right? I always say. So you need the energy system, the workers to work in the body. It is your primary fuel source. You can fuel from a slightly fat standpoint, which I will talk about later, but your body's preference is carbs. So it's going to go for carbs first, okay? Now, there's different types of carbs. I see Tara, Denise, Wendy, Shenika, and Katrina all popped in. So awesome. But yeah, so there's a few different types of carbs in terms of structural. You have monosaccharides, disaccharides, and polysaccharides. So these are all just like how many, like, like the hydrogen atom to it. Like if you have one, then it's like a monosaccharide. If you have two like monosaccharides together, then you have disaccharides. If you have many together, then it's polysaccharides. So monosaccharides would be examples of glucose, fructose, those types of things, very simple. Disaccharides would be things like lactose, which is glucose and galactose together, maltose, which is two glucose compounds together, and polysaccharides are things that are longer chains together. So they're like cellulose, like a part of plants, starches, a lot of starch carbs. So they're a lot more complex. So there's a lot more chains to them, which is kind of why I say, like, starch carbs, it takes longer for your body to digest, because there's more chains to it to break down, right? So understanding what the different kinds of carbs there is also important based on how you want to fuel your body. If you need faster sugar, then you need more simple sugars, right? That's going to break down faster. If you don't want it to break down as fast, then you need more like polysaccharides and other types of like cellulose, right? Like in plants and things like that, that takes a lot longer for your body to digest. Okay. So, your carbs, and I'm just giving the background right now, your carbs have not only an energy source kind of producing energy and ATP in your body, carbs also store a lot of energy. So they store energy in your body in the form of glycogen. And glycogen is stored in the liver and the muscles. And it's what helps you obviously have energy to do a lot of the workload as you go train, and it needs to get the energy from your muscles. It has structural roles. Your carbohydrates help your body with like cells and tissues and the formation of that, along with protein. It helps with cell signaling. A lot of your carbs signal to each other. So they are needed in your body to signal back and forth to each other. And you need carbs for dietary fiber. And if you are in the 21-day program, you will be learning a little bit about this, but you need enough of that fiber to maintain a really healthy gut in your system, because your digestion and your gut, which is like thousands of neurons and everything, how you process food is so important, right? So the carbs, like, I know sometimes you may not think like how important carbs are, but carbs are really important because they play so many roles in your body. And like I said, carbs are your main energy source. So before I dive into fat, because I'm just explaining the basics right now, how many of you are carb phobic or are scared of eating too much carbs? How many of you are carb phobic? Because I know a lot of women are scared of carbs or don't want to eat too much carbs. And I think the trend is changing, but I am kind of curious if there's people here who are still slightly, just a little bit afraid of still eating carbs. So put it below if you're carb phobic, okay? Hi, Joanne, good to see you. So let's kind of move on to the next one now. So Debbie, me, not now. Yeah, used to be, exactly. So Monica, you're a little bit afraid of carbs, right? But you just heard how many roles it plays in your body, right? And it's like you imagine if you don't give it carbs, like what it does to the disruption of your system, right? Me, as I am a type 2. Right, Cindy, and it's understanding what types of carbs to have, right? You still need a little bit, but you have to be more conscious of your insulin, which I will also talk about. Vivian, not at all. Yeah, you shouldn't be. She's an ectomorph, so she eats a lot of carbs. Yeah, and Cindy was once. Now I know the difference. Yeah, you know the difference. Awesome. Okay, so fats. So the fats, I say, so if you have the bricks is protein and the carbs are the workers, then the fat is like the electricity in your building, right? It is what makes everything come together and kind of connect to each other. So like if you didn't have electricity in the building, you might not be able to call each other or like that, like maybe email or Wi-Fi connection. I should also say Wi-Fi connection, electricity, that type of thing, might not be able to like message the person on the second floor. And so signals will get lost if you don't have proper electricity and Wi-Fi connection, right? So with that being said, if you don't have good fats in your body, you are fat phobic or don't want to eat fats, you're going to have signaling issues in your body, right? So fats are lipids. And just like carbs, they're also made up of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, right? They're just arranged in different ways. So fats are a source of energy. Okay, they're just not your preferred source of energy, but they do hold a lot of energy and can be used. They provide insulation for your body and your organs. They are important for helping you absorb fat-soluble vitamins, and they assist in hormone production and synthesis and all of that. So fats are extremely important. How many of you are fat phobic? Now, I'm going to ask you the other question. Is anybody here fat phobic and are kind of scared of, taking in fats or eating fats, or you always avoid fat, or you buy products that says fat free? Is anybody here kind of fat phobic? Put that below. Hi, Condra. Hi, Yolanda. Hi, Cindy. Good to see you. So fats can be separated into different categories as well. So fats can be separated into triglycerides, which is the most common type of fat found in the human body and in our diet. they consist of 3 fatty acid molecules to a glycerol backbone. So when the energy is used, it's broken down into fatty acids and glycerol. Like when the triglyceride is broken, it is called lipolysis. So when you want to break down fat molecules, it splits into this, right? So when you're starting to lose fat and all of this, there's a process where it's the breaking down of fat that has to happen, okay? Not you. Yeah, Jennifer loves her peanut butter. Let me tell you, she's not fat phobic. She wants her fat really a lot. Yolanda, good to see you. Jennifer used to be fat phobic. Okay, used to be, so that's good. And Debbie says, I was totally before Clarice. Now after Clarice, not as much. You enjoy your healthy fats. Awesome. So there's triglycerides kind of in the body. It's a major energy storage. Of course, too much is not good, right? Too much will be too much fat on your body. We want to make sure there's a little bit, but if you want to lose fat, then you want to break down, you want to have greater lipolysis in your body. So the second type of fat is saturated fats. Most of you guys know this. Saturated fats are predominantly found in animal-based products such as meat, poultry, dairy products, all of that, and they're usually solid at room temperature. So they're in the saturated fats, there is no double bond between the carbon atoms. So the hydrogen atoms are really saturated. So that's why it's called saturated fats. The hydrogen atoms, there's just a lot of hydrogen atoms. So that's why it's called saturated fats. So too much of the saturated fats will cause cardiovascular issues. And so you should limit how much saturated fats you have, which is a lot of the fats and the fatty meats and even dairy. I have a lot to say about dairy. So being very conscious of saturated fats, okay, was a fat phobe previously, right? So lots of people here were previously fat phobic, right? Now it's understanding there's different types of fats, right? And that's why I'm breaking it down. I know for some of you, this is like ABCs. So I'm trying to talk faster so I can go, but hey, it's never like, it's always good to sometimes return to the basics, right? So the third type of fat is unsaturated fats. So unsaturated fats have either one or more double bonds in the carbon atom. And so because they are kind of a different molecular structure, they look different under microscope. They're like more kinky and kind of odd shaped. So there's monosaturated fats, which is there's one double bond in that fatty acid chain. So monounsaturated fats are good kinds of fats. They include like olive oil, avocados, nuts, and seeds, and they help you bring up the HDL and lower the LDL cholesterols in your body. So monounsaturated fats are really good. You have polyunsaturated fats, which have 2 or more double bonds in the fatty acid chain. Polyunsaturated fats are omega-3s and omega-6. Omega-3s you might recognize are from salmon, macro, which by the way, I had macro today. So there you go. I have lots of good omega-3s today. And then omega-6 are found in things like vegetable oils, like soybean, corn, sunflower oil, and a lot of other things. Now, I'm going to say that I have a lot to say about oils. And if you don't understand your oils, there's a lot of tricky things about this, because oils by itself are healthy on its own. It's a lot of times how companies process these oils that then changes a lot whether these oils are good for you or not. Obviously, this is not a talk about inflammation, so I'm not going to go into that. But your body does need both omega-3s and omega-6 oils. However, I will also just say that the ratio of how much omega-3 and omega-6 you need radically impacts the inflammation in your body. So you have to really understand how much of these oils you actually need, or healthy fats, okay? So 21-day program, you are going to learn this specifically. If you haven't gotten there, think it's near the end of module 3. So it is, the type of oils is so important, but you do need it. It's just like if you go too much in one end, you could radically change a lot of the systematic profiling inflammation in your body with too much omega-6 or things like that. So just being careful about that. And of course, the last type of fat is trans fat. You guys have heard me say lots about this. Trans fat are not real fats. Well, they are. They are artificially produced through a process called hydrogenation, which converts vegetable oils into solid fats. Okay, so they're typically in processed foods, baked goods, fried foods. It's very bad for your body. It raises your LDLs, right, and increases your cardiovascular risk for disease. So trans fat is so bad for your body that a lot of countries have started to try to put a ban on trans fat. So if you like baked goods, you like cookies, you like a lot of processed things like that, maybe you don't, just be particularly careful about that, because that particular type of fat a lot of companies use to produce things, but if that ends up in your system, it's pretty problematic. And in your deep fried food, if you like fried chicken or different things like that, that can have major implications in your body. So the thing I want to say there is, obviously you need fat, but really sticking to as much of your unsaturated fats, monounsaturated fats, your polyunsaturated fats, with understanding how to balance that, and then avoiding trans fat is a good key to that. Okay, so does anyone actually know? Obviously I'm not going to go into details. Does anybody know why you have to be very careful about omega-3s and omega-6s? Does anyone know why? Just kind of curious if people actually know. If you have too much of different types of oils, what happens? I'm just curious if anyone knows that. Just put it below. If not, that's okay. So, hi, Donna. Hi, Liz and Betty Zan. Thank you for joining. So let's talk a little bit of, like now you know what the basics of macronutrients are. So why is macronutrients so important, right? Why do I talk about macronutrients so much? Can you have a healthy lifestyle and eat healthy without knowing your macronutrients? The answer is yes, you still can. There's many people who don't know macronutrients, but can eat generally healthy. But if I was to say, how precise you want to get in your body and your physique. So we talk specifically about like the precision of like how your body looks. Macros is your most accurate dialing point, right? Because for one, when you know macros, you understand quality of food, not just quantity of food. And why this is really important is because, like, when you think of your body as a house, I kind of mentioned this earlier. If your body is a house, imagine if you just worried about calories. It's important, don't get me wrong, you do need to know calories, but if you just worried about calories, you would maybe build that house with Play-Doh, right? And all this Play-Doh, and it's colorful, just like the candies and baked goods and ice cream that you like to eat, okay? So you build it with like Play-Doh, and the Play-Doh can dry and become solid, and it still stands as a structure. But you and I know that, it's very weak and it's very fragile, and then it will crack easily. And then you put water and then it dissolves and kind of, or not dissolves, but, kind of breaks down. And so a lot of people, when they are not aware of macros, is they're shortchanging the structural component of their body, right? They're being built out of Play-Doh, and that's why they break down so easily. They break down, they have diseases, they have chronic illnesses, it's like this Play-Doh coming apart, right? But if you know your macros, and you build your house with brick and mortar and concrete, the quality of your body is really high, and it's unlikely and much harder to break this house down, to get leaks in it, to have the wind blow it over type of thing. And so that's really one of the reasons why I talk a lot about this, because honestly, being in the fitness industry, people look at me, or, guys that will say like, you do macros, like as if it's a bad thing, right? Like, because I think why people give me those reactions is because it's so complex, right? And there's I think it's complex only when you don't understand it. Once you understand it, it's not super complex, but it's like more tedious than probably a lot of people want to do. So if you're not someone who's like, I don't really want to be working on macros and calculating, that's okay. But I'm speaking about this as I want you to understand why I believe so much in macros. And if that's not your philosophy, that's okay. You can find it. There are different approaches. There's many ways to reach a goal, but macros, in my opinion, gives you the best understanding to create the strongest, healthiest body, right? Claire says the wrong fat deposits in you. Yeah, clogs arteries, exactly, and creates plaque. Exactly, Claire. Hi, Denise. So this is kind of why I talk a lot about macros, but you still do have to consider calories. It's not like calories are thrown out the door. Like if you had too much calories, you could still gain weight, even if you have good macros, right? So you need good macros, the quality of food, but you still have to be aware of quantity of food. But you can have you can have good quantity of food but poor quality of food and still not reach your goals. But if you have good quantity of food and good quality of food, you can see how the precision of what you create is going to be top notch, right? So that's kind of why I talk about that. Now, as well, another reason around why you need to know your macronutrients really well is if you think about what I said above about protein, carbs, and fat, it's if you understand your macros, you understand what your body needs at every angle, right? So think about what I just said above in terms of the background around macros. If you understand what to give your body for protein, you're giving it good structural building blocks. If you understand what you need for carbs, you're giving it a good energy system. If you understand what to give your body in fats, you give it a good hormonal profile and good absorption of nutrients, right? And so when you can actually fuel your body at the most optimal angle, like three-pronged approach, okay, then I came up with this, okay? I just said there's no starving children left behind, okay? Don't ask me where I got that, but I love children. So there's no starving children left behind, okay? When you don't understand your macros, there's some poor starving children left behind, you don't know, you might have left the fat, like the fat molecules behind, and they are starving for they need the fats, or you might have left the carbs behind if you are like really carb phobic, and suddenly your body is imbalanced. So another reason for that macros is you want to create the best homeostasis balance in your body so your body can run optimally, right? And so that's kind of why I say that, because like if you don't know your macros, it's so easy to go over. It's so easy. Like when I look at people's macros, a lot of times when people have a lot of issues with their nutrition, or they feel like they're plateaued, or they feel like they can't reach their physique goals, it's something to do with the way their macros are balanced. Whether it's like their carbs are way too high or sometimes way too low. Sometimes they're believe it or not, some people's protein is way too high. Like I think, yeah, anyways, I'm not gonna say names, but like I've seen certain people's profiles and I'm like, wow, like protein is important, but that's a little bit high, a little bit too much, right? And so this is kind of why you need to have a good understanding of your macros so your body can run optimally. And the way I want you guys to see this is think of it like a combination lock, okay? And a combination lock has 3 numbers you need perfectly to be able to unlock the lock. So you want to think of like that in your body. There is a optimal combination, and that optimal combination can change with time, with different things in your body gaining more muscle, your age, the activity level, like it can change. But for a given time, there is usually a more optimal level of where the protein ratio to the carb ratio to the fat ratio will sit. And like the combination lock system, if you can hit the marker right for the 3, it's like, voila, what happens? The lock can unlock, right? And when it can unlock, a lot of times that's when you can see really good changes coming in your body, things start happening, or you can break that plateau because you've created this combination lock, right? So, yeah, so how many people here feel like they really know their combination lock, or they need more help with their combination lock? So if you need more help with your combination lock, I want you to put combination lock below, because I think that's it's that balance between the 3 that is so important for people, right? Wanda says weight loss. Yes, you're trying to lose weight. Yeah. And so now we're going to talk about that. So depending on what goals you have to adjust and dial that macros differently based on your goals. Okay. And that comes from understanding what the role of each macro is. So even though I went through ABCs at the beginning, and some of you who are like more seasoned might be like, oh, that's so basic about macros again. But I think sometimes don't almost undermine that, because the better you understand, like I just named off, there were 6 major crucial roles of proteins above. The better you understand of what every molecule in your body is doing for your body, the better you know how to adjust your macros, because you understand the role of what it's doing in your body, right? And so yes, I see combination locks coming in, and we will reach out to you and share you're in the 21-day anti-inflammation program. And that's what I mentioned. Once you know your inflammation, then you need to then dial it with your macros, right? So yeah, so that's good. So let's talk about depending on what your goal, how would you adjust your macros generally, right? I'm going to say generally, because today I'm not going to give you specifics, and anyone watching this that's waiting for the perfect number, no perfect number is coming at you. Okay. I often get asked that, give me my macros and give me my perfect numbers. There's no numbers I can give you today. I can give you concepts and things to think about, but then very specifically, it has to be specific to you. Okay. So the first thing to like an example, okay, of when do you adjust your macros? For example, if your goal is to build lean muscle or preserve lean muscle, then of course you probably want more protein. That's a given. You probably want more protein in there because you want more muscle. You want to preserve lean muscle mass. If you want to control insulin and optimize fat loss, then you probably need to have very controlled intake of carbs and knowing what types of carbs to have. So again, if you were listening to above and you went past a lot of the things I said, whether it's monosaccharides, disaccharides, polysaccharides, it may seem like it's too biological for me, too much biology for me. But if you understand more of that, you will understand better how to control your insulin level based on what types of carbs enter your system, right? So if you want to have better fat loss and better control of your insulin, you have to know how to control your carbohydrates, right? If you are in sports performance, then you want to know how to manipulate higher carb intake and faster acting carbs, and more of the faster acting carbs that can move quickly into your system, right? So it really does depend on your goal. And that's why there isn't one set perfect ratio for everyone. There isn't one set perfect ratio. So I see combination lock, and those combination lock, like Vivian said, can change often. Exactly. And the combination lock will change as your body changes. So if you are gaining more muscle, that combination lock will slowly start to dial to kind of a new lock combo. But it's also not like fast. Don't get me wrong. It's not like you have this combination lock one day and suddenly that combination lock is like, boom, something very, very different the next day. Typically your body operates like slow moving, like a clock, like it like moves like gradually, right? And so if you understand that, then you can dial and tweak more easier in your macronutrients. So depends on your goal, okay, is how you're going to determine what to do with each macronutrient, okay? So specific things to keep in mind. So let's talk about specific things to keep in mind as a woman and as a woman kind of going through menopause and all of that, okay? So hi Thelma, good to see you. So the first thing is, overall, women have a lower caloric requirement than men. And we know this due to differences in body composition, hormonal profile, and metabolic rate. So it is very, very important, okay, hear me out, that you seek for a customized approach on what your body needs and not just eat what your husband eats or what your boyfriend eats, or a guy that says, oh, why don't you just eat this? Or it's like they don't have the same type of profiling as you, and they can take such a higher carb loading than a woman can. So you have to be very cautious of that and be very, very insistent. Sometimes, I mean, I've met with husbands and boyfriends on calls who says like, why don't they, like, she just eats healthy. She just eats healthy, she'll lose weight, right? And it's not as simple as that, right? Because you have a specific hormonal profiling and you need certain things. So really being like cognizant that you can't eat exactly like you were in your 30s, because as you age, your metabolic rate starts to fall a little bit, not by a lot, but a little bit. And your lifestyle changes a lot of times as well. And so getting that really good customized approach to your body is really important. And I'm going to dive deeper into this in the next few points. But if you're like, I don't really know my macro needs. So if people are asking me the specific scientific things, and you can probably look it up, you do calculations. I have a macro guide that kind of does the baseline. So like you can know your basal metabolism. So your basic metabolism, and then you take your basal metabolism and times it by activity level, and then that activity level gives you total calories. And then you're supposed to know percentages of how many protein, carbs, and fat are going to be in your, sorry, I'm getting some sort of message here. Hold on. Now I can't see anymore. Oh, there we go. Okay. So yeah, so you have to dial, sorry, I'm losing my train of thought, but yeah, you need to dial in exactly what you need. I think I lost my train of thought here. All right. So, basal metabolism. Thank you. Basal metabolism. So yeah, so basal metabolism and all of that you can calculate. But the reason why I say like you should try to get a more customized approach, because I said this before, if your macros, you could take your basal metabolism, times it by activity level, get your total caloric count, then split it by percentages of protein, carbs, and fat. But there's more than that, right? All the ones who I've coached, what else do we have to consider? What else do we have to consider when it comes to your macros? Let's test all the ones that I've coached before. Put it below. What else do you have to consider besides these baseline calculations that are out there? So I'm going to wait a little bit and I'll come back to this question. If anybody can say what else do you have to consider, we'll go from there. Okay, Vivian says metabolism. Yeah. What kind of metabolism do you have? Do you have a healthy metabolism, or do you have an adapted metabolism, which means you starved yourself for too long and now your metabolism turned down, right? Your age and your activity, Debbie says, yeah, your age influences significantly the hormonal profiling in your body, and what you need at 30, 40 is not what you need at 60, right? And so cortisol, that's a good one, Debbie. You're learning. Yes, good, Debbie. Whether there's a lot of cortisol in your body or not, how stressed out of a person are you? also determines how much and certain types of macros that you should and shouldn't have. And Claire says, what is your goal? Yeah, like, and you guys can start to see, and there's a lot more, like body type. Are you ectomorph, mesomorph, endomorph? You know, I was listening to something the other day, and they were like, like this recommendation here says 60% should come from carbs, and then they were giving the equivalent of how much carbs that's actually in your system. And this person was just saying, like, man, the only person who can take that amount of carbs is an ectomorph. Is that right, Vivian? So if you're not an ectomorph and you go off of these like baseline things, you're going to have a lot of problems, and you're going to gain weight, or you're going to plateau. And so my biggest thing for you is, like, get customized approach to your macros, because there's way more than just the mathematical calculations of what you're thinking in your brain. And so, yeah, so if, again, you might have already said combination lock, but if you like know you need more customization, you can put customization below, and we will reach out to you as well. Vivian's laughing. Vivian can take so much carbs. I swear, even 70% carbs she can probably take. So that's really good, Vivian. Okay, so number two. So number two thing you have to consider, as a woman and kind of as a aging woman in going into menopause. So I don't know if you know that past the age of 40, you start losing about half a pound of muscle per year. Okay, and your rate of muscle loss starts to double, which is a little bit scary, right? Some of you are 40 or over 40 or have been over 40 for a long time, okay? So this means your muscle loss is starting to become faster and faster. So as you are losing muscle faster, you have to ensure you increase protein in your food. And when I say increase protein, I mean that you probably need more protein than you think. I do find a lot of women are very low in their protein for what I would say is like a good level of protein. And that it often, again, this is one of those things that there's textbooks, there's recommendations, and all of this type of stuff. But these recommendations of protein requirements have such a large range, from someone saying 0.8 per pound of body fat to someone saying 1.2 per pound of body fat, then someone saying 1.5, then somebody saying 1.8, and someone saying, like, depending on where you are and your activity level, how much you lift, and all of this. So that's why I say, again, it's not like there is one answer to say to you that there is like this one protein amount. But I will say, you want to side on the side of having more protein than less, because you are losing muscle mass quite quickly and you want to preserve muscle in your body. And the second reason is because your body, as it ages, the cellular structures become less responsive to nutrients and certain hormonal signaling. Now, that side of things, research are continually being done. It's sort of like, how come, for example, when you're young, as a kid, you can eat all the candy in the world and nothing happens. It's like your body can move that sugar so fast out of your system, and boom, right? You just run around the house or something like that. But when you're older and suddenly you eat something sugary and you feel sick, like I can't eat much sugar. If I eat a lot, I feel sick right away. I'm sure a lot of people as well, because as you age, your body doesn't, it just does not respond the right way. It doesn't absorb nutrients the right way. And when I did the muscle sculpting masterclass, the ones in the 21-day program, you'll hear it somewhere in that 3-hour talk that's in there, is that there's sort of these like gates that are on the cellular structure. And because of sometimes different hormonal signals, those things get shut off. So now you have less gates. So think of the cellular structure. There's less gates that are open to take up the nutrients you need. So, without getting too scientific, if your cells as they age is less ready to absorb nutrients and less able to uptake maybe the amino acids and different things, then you need to make sure there's more of that in your system to ensure that your body can get the signal that it needs, right? So I see lots of custom, and Barb, custom, we'll talk. Yeah, I know you're in my program, so I can definitely help you with that for sure. Atrophy. Yeah, if you don't get enough protein, exactly. So here's the thing that you have to remember though, okay? You definitely want to side on more protein than not, for sure. But don't go crazy as well. Like too much protein of anything. Too much protein can make you gain weight. Too much fat can make you gain weight. Too much carb can make you gain weight. So don't go crazy either. That's why it's kind of like you want to have a good combination lock. Like I said above, you want more protein than less, but don't go crazy. Because sometimes I've seen people with like 50-60% protein, which is a really high. It's almost like not necessary to be like that, but without knowing it, I think sometimes people are like, oh, I'm going to drink a protein shake here, and then I'm going to eat that protein bar, and then I'm going to make sure I have protein in my my dinner, and then suddenly like everything is spiking up into this like large amount of protein in your body, which also isn't healthy. And a lot of times, like these other things that you take in with protein can have a lot of other things that you don't want with it, right? So how many of you feel like you overeat protein or you undereat protein? What do you think? Put it below. Do you overeat protein or do you undereat protein? Yeah, sure. So yes, I guess that's definitely something that has been that's why sometimes people say like don't eat too much protein, that type of thing. But I will say that specific statement is a little bit like okay, again, probably there's like the recommendation says this, the recommendation says this. Sometimes people like you should never go over 30% of protein. It's like, okay, yeah, because one article said that, or whatever the recommendation says that. And then it's like, otherwise it's going to damage your kidney. I don't really believe that, because if you use the protein and you need it for your body and you need to build muscle and you're constantly using it, you couldn't have more than that. But the thing is if people think they're trying to be healthy, I want to be healthy, I'm going to get protein bars, I'm going to buy the snack that says protein in it, I'm going to have protein shakes, and then I'm going to eat protein in my meal. And this protein emphasized society, which it is right now, then you have all this protein, but you don't go exercise, or you don't really use it, you're not using it, then yeah, you're going to go overboard with your protein and have major impacts on your body. But if you use it, it's the same thing I get asked all the time. Okay, I'm going off on a tangent. Carry a big 4-liter jug. I know a lot of my clients carry big 4-liter jugs of water. I get asked all the time, that's too much water. No, you're going to drown yourself. Are you kidding me? Why are you drinking so much water? I'm like, okay, if I sat at home and drank 4 liters of water and did nothing with my life, I'm going to drown myself with 4 liters of water. But I'm not. I'm using up the water so I can have more water or protein, right? And so this is kind of why I would say like just be cautious, because a lot of people will say like, oh no, like this recommendation says don't go above this, or don't, like I'm a very like I don't follow exactly those guidelines. I think it depends on what you need, right? It depends on what you're doing. And if I look at you and how much you work out, which includes how heavy you lift, and if I was to observe how you work out, how you train, are you even like actively building muscle, or you're working out incorrectly and only working your joint? Well, you won't need as much protein. If you're actively hitting the muscle fiber properly, you may need more protein. Again, it depends on how you work out too, right? And the ratio of cardio to HIIT training to resistance training also determines how much protein probably your body needs, right? So yeah, hopefully, yeah, I'm glad that clarified. Over, Louisa said over, okay, definitely under. Paula, Cindy says under. Sherry says no idea, because I know you're not on macros right now, maybe under eating protein. Yeah, so Sherry, so you said dogs are 22 to 29%, anything more could be toxic. So again, like these recommendations are like, what is the general? So again, like I don't really go by generalities. And again, like you have to observe the individual, and I don't know about dogs. I'm just saying, as in like general, you got to observe what the body needs. To be healthy, you need to understand the balancing of your macros. Yes, exactly, Cindy. So the third thing you have to consider is, I mentioned this in a live on muscle building, I think a few weeks ago, but women's preference for fuel source is actually very different from men. Men tend to prefer to oxidize carbs in exercise, but women actually prefer to oxidize fats in exercise. And this is obviously constantly being researched, but they found that women, and kind of studying like how they use up nutrients in their body, they tend to use up fats more than carbs. And this has many, many reasons behind it. I mentioned before that women have more estrogen, and estrogen has a muscle sparing effect. It actually protects your muscle more. It's more, it prevents catabolic effect in your body. Whereas because men don't have that, they can lose, like, I guess, the muscle faster during exercise. So they have to use carbs quite quickly. So men use carb quite intensely in their exercise, whereas women use slightly less carbs and more fat. So why is this really important is because you may need, as you age particularly as well, you may need a little bit more healthy fats than you need, than you think. You may need more healthy fats than you think, okay? So this is really important because when women's estrogen levels drop, like, and they don't have, basically when their estrogen level drops, if you have too low and you don't have enough good fats to support this can lead to brain fog, depression, hot flashes, night sweats, fatigue, vaginal dryness. Doesn't that sound a lot like menopausal symptoms, right? So if you have more healthy fats, you can actually help a lot of these kind of, symptoms. And so it's important to have lots of good healthy fat. And if you exercise a lot is really important as well, right? And because you're, with menopause, so if you have not enough healthy fats, you have lower estrogen level, then also menopause is lower estrogen level. You can see like how this kind of leads to a lot of compounding effect of what low estrogen levels does to your body, right? But again, this is another thing to keep in mind. Suddenly I don't need someone to go buy this big bag of nuts and start eating it and be like, because Clarice says more fat in the body is good. So here's the thing. If you eat too much fat, you have to be really careful because it has lots of calories, right? 1 gram of fat is 9 calories versus 1 gram of carbs or protein is 4 calories. So you could spike your calories really, really fast with healthy fats. So you have to be particularly cautious of that. But you also don't, and like if you have too much fats, then suddenly you have weight gain, right? Because you're not only calorie wise, but the estrogen level spikes too high. So weight gain, mood swings, headaches, insomnia, breast tenderness, irregular menstrual cycles. So you don't want to like throw your estrogen level too high when you also don't want it too low. So why I bring this up is because like, it's sort of like this. I know she's always open for me using her as an example, but Jennifer is, she just really likes her fats a lot. And when I first actually saw her kind of what she was eating, I mentioned this to her, and obviously there's a little bit that I've wanted her to lower, and so it was just because like she was just so high up there, but she still wants a lot of fat, and I still give her that because she probably needs it in her body because she always is demanding it in her what she wants, but it's like, yeah, we really want to balance this because I don't want her to spike too high, because I know. And that's why I said earlier, if you understand what each macronutrient does to your body, then you're going to be cautious of like these things. You're like, oh, I really want this. And you go crazy and have too much of it. What does that do to your body? And knowing that can like spike your estrogen level like crazy. Rosalinda is another big example. Wow, does she ever ever like her nuts a lot. Rosalinda, if you're ever on here, you know what I'm talking about. So it's like you want to be really careful. You do have more preference for fat as you age, for healthy fat. But, just again, you need to have the right combination. I guess I'm coming back to the same thing, is you need to have the right combination. So let me ask you, do you know your proper fat macros? So if you don't know your proper fat macros, put fat macros below, because again, that is very, very important to your hormonal profiling and what it does to you in your body, right? A little goes a long way for fats. Exactly. Cindy, you know that. Hi, Alma, good to see you. And Laura. So let's talk about one more thing here. So after 40, your estrogen levels drop, right? Your estrogen starts to go down. So what people don't understand is when your estrogen levels drop, how does this impact your insulin level? Does anyone know? So interesting. I feel like hormones is this like massive chain. It's like these buttons. One pushes this, then it pushes this, then it pushes this, then it pushes this, right? What happens to your insulin level? Does anyone know? Barb, I see that. Yeah. Barb, I'll help you with that. You're in my program, so I for sure will help you with that. It causes your insulin level to rise. Sherry says, yes, you've got that right. So when estrogen levels drop, it actually forces insulin levels to start to rise. So there's a lot of correlation between insulin resistance and estrogen dropping. So this is really crucial to understand. As you age, because of your estrogen drop, you become actually more insulin resistant by nature because of that. So thus why whatever you used to do and could eat and could get away with, you really can't get away with when you are older. And you can't afford to not understand your carbs, because I mentioned above, your carbs and fat ratios are so important to each other. And you're like, before 40, you can get away with a lot of things, but your insulin level starts being resistant. For anyone who doesn't understand that, it just means like it's like you're not able to respond to insulin as well, your cells, if it's insulin resistant. And insulin is the molecule that opens up the gate and lets the sugar through, right? So if it doesn't allow insulin to do it, you're not getting a whole lot of sugar to move into your cells, into your muscles. And now you have sugar in your body. You have too much sugar in your body. That's not a good thing. And your body will figure out something to do. And most likely it's going to put it on as fat and then cause a lot of problems with your organs and stuff like that, right? So again, you're after 40, your estrogen levels drop, which causes your insulin levels to rise, which increases your risk of insulin resistance. And that chain of hormones then affects thyroid, and your thyroid levels start to go down. What happens when your thyroid levels go down? Oh, this is a test for all of you. Yeah, it can spike easily. Is that what you say, Cindy, for the insulin? What happens to your thyroid? So your estrogen levels drop, insulin's rise, and if insulin is beginning to rise too much, it will cause. So Vivian says weight gain if your thyroid levels. Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna say it. So your thyroid levels will go down. So estrogen levels drop, insulin levels rise, thyroid levels go down. And if your thyroid levels start going down, this combination makes you actually super hungry. So for some of you, and don't misinterpret this, if you have a healthy metabolism and you're wanting healthy foods to eat, that's great. But for people who have like uncontrolled cravings, they can't stop eating certain things, and they suddenly like seem to have this like really imbalance in their body. A lot of times is maybe because their thyroid levels are dropping. Not the only reason. Again, what Barb here is. Anyways, I won't say. But yeah, like you have to go consult your doctor on some of these things. But the thing is, if your thyroid levels drop, you're hungrier. You have lower energy, you're more fatigued, and you're more likely to weight gain, just like Vivian said there, because you're slower thyroid, right? So you end up eating more because you're hungrier and burning fewer calories because you have slower metabolism, all of those types of things. So weight gain accumulates very fast after 40 or 50 because of all the shifting of hormones in your body. And particularly you're going to gain that in the midsection because your estrogen levels dropped, which means your androgen hormones went up, which means the belly depositing hormones kind of shifted more to the belly because androgen hormones are responsible for centralization of fat distribution, as I said. So then now you have more of the hormone that's circulating to help you push weight or gain weight, push it into the midsection. And on top of that, if you don't understand inflammation, which is why the 21-day program is there, then you have high inflammation circulating that further distributes it into your belly. And now you are like, why am I gaining my belly? I don't understand. And on top of that, with your estrogen levels dropping, you have a faster decline in your midsection core muscle. Your core muscles actually drop off a lot faster. And so it becomes, core is weak, fat is depositing faster, inflammation is faster, and you can see how one thing leads to the other, right? So Sydney says hypothyroidism. Yes, but low thyroid doesn't necessarily mean hypothyroidism, but it can lead to that, if that makes sense. That can lead to that. So you can see right away there's a big chain that happens, and why I don't like generalization of macro calculations, right? Because if you look at this complexity of this situation, it's like, how can you say this general calculation of this amount of basal metabolism times your activity level, then times it by a percentage of 30% protein, 50% carbs, or whatever these percentages are, and then you go, wait, but that doesn't take into account my hormones, and that doesn't take into account like what my body type is. And that doesn't take into account like where my estrogen, thyroid levels, and all these things are that is now impacting it. And so this is kind of why I explain it this way, because it depends on you, it depends on what type of body type you have. I look at Marcia just jumped in, and Marcia is naturally a leaner person as well. She may not struggle with massive amounts of belly fat. And there's a certain she was in my program before that I will have to kind of work with her on because she doesn't struggle with massive belly fat. But if someone struggles with massive belly fat, there's a lot going on with your hormones. There's a lot going on with your hormones, right? And so not only do you have to be extra cautious of the ratio of your macros, okay? These are some other tips I want to give you, generally speaking, to think about to make sure your body, functions as optimally as possible. So outside of making sure all your macros are really well balanced, you need to learn what inflames your body and learn how to lower it as much as possible, right? Because your body is becoming more inflamed as you age, is becoming more inflamed as you head into menopause because of all the situations happening in your body. So you must learn how to bring down inflammation in your body, which is what that 21-day program is about. You need to limit sugar and any added sugar as much as you can, unless you are an athlete and a high-performing athlete. You need to limit saturated fats. You can have a little bit, just not too much of saturated fats, because your body doesn't can't process it as well. You need to watch your sodium levels. Anything above 2,300 milligrams is going to be too much. So be very careful of your sodium levels. I have lots to say about alcohol. I'm not a fan of it. There's a lot of reasons. And I will say that alcohol, not only is a different type of sugar compound and puts extreme stress on your liver, but it has massive impacts on a inflammation response system. And again, I'm not going to get into details of that, but yeah, be careful of alcohol. And you have to be very cognizant of micronutrients as well. This is a macronutrient live, not a micronutrient live, but your micronutrients like your vitamins and minerals are also extremely important. And you need to make sure, as you age, like a lot of the things like iron and calcium, potassium, your vitamin D, A, C are also really important. So making sure like you have really good micronutrient profiling. And if you don't know your micronutrients, again, I do have a micronutrient live. I also put that micronutrient live in the 21-day program. So, obviously that one, if you want to learn more, you can request it below. But it's also like, again, I'm going to say the same thing is like, you can go blanket overall, or sometimes you may need more specific guidance on specific micronutrients, right? Especially if you have gut issues. Gut issues require specific types of micronutrients to make sure that it's functioning properly. So really learning that well is going to be important, as well as making sure you have lots of fiber. So you should have at least 25 grams of fiber per day to ensure you have maximal gut health, right? So it says, Cindy says, aging can suck unless you learn how and what to do. And I'm still seeking to learn. Yes. And Cindy, obviously she was in my transformation program, my muscle accelerator, and now she's in my 21-day program. So Cindy is one determined lady. And I know for her 60th birthday, her goal was to lose that belly, and she's done it. And she's a great example. And I know she's just constantly trying to figure out how to best optimize it. But the ones who have done my program, and some of you who are back in my 21-day program, isn't it funny how fast you'll lose it if you're not conscious of what you eat? Some of you have told me this. I let myself go. I slipped. I started eating this and this, and I started putting this and this. And you can see why. Like if you listen to my live, I said, when you're after 40, the amount of hormonal situations happening in your body, just even a little bit of inflammation is going to switch these hormones on you like crazy. You switch one hormone, what does it do? It's like a massive chain reaction. And then you do inflammation, cortisol spikes, estrogen level drops, insulin resistance increases, thyroid drops, and the cortisol rises, and then that affects your sex hormones like estrogen and testosterone. Now suddenly you're not able to build muscle, and then from one hormone thing goes to the next, and it's like, it's so complex, but it's not. Like it's almost like if you can understand structurally, like I'm going to say it again. I believe the first thing is you must address inflammation. If you don't have inflammation in your body, I high five you, you're awesome. But if the first thing you have, you must address inflammation. Number two is then you need to understand your macros and really understand what is the role of protein, carbs, and fat in your body, and how, as you age, these macronutrients have to be dialed differently for your body as you age. And what you got as a macronutrient, let's say dialing when you were 45 is likely not the same when you're 55. And so just to make sure you really recognize that, right? And keep that, in your mind. Hi, Sheila. Good that you are here. Marcia, I found it super hard for some reason to get my fiber requirements and balance macros. Interesting. Yeah. And that's something that we can talk about. I know I was helping, she's not on here, Jody, but once she got the good balance of her fibers and everything together with her carbs, it was simple, but she had to really work on getting it together and make sure all the balances were there. And now it's like, she's on it. She's basically, as Marcia was really accurate with her macros. And so people who are really accurate, like get to like the 0 grams of differences. So she's super accurate. So there's a way to do it. So the last thing I'll say, I kept this pretty short. I'm happy. Okay. So the last thing I will say is if you struggle with inflammation in your body, and you have not told us you want to be on that list for the 21-day program, put 21 so that we can make sure you get onto that waiting list, because we have obviously a link that you need to put your name on, put 21. But if you feel like is not just inflammation, but it is also your macros, your division of macros and how you have the percentage of protein, carbs, and fat. Then you might want to put FFF down, because FFF specifically goes into more the macronutrients, macro-based way of eating, and how the ratios are going to work in your body, as well as addressing inflammation. So FFF is the group coaching program. So you can put FFF or 21, depending on which direction you want to go. And yeah, and that's basically totally 100% agree. Awesome. Awesome, Cindy. Yeah, so, you know, if you guys have any questions, you can drop it below. We can try our best to answer you. However, the one thing I will not answer you, I will say it right out, is if you ask me what my macros are, I will say, I don't know. Okay. Someone who asked me that, I said, I don't know your history. I don't know how much you do for workouts. I don't know how you work out. I don't know your body type. I don't know your metabolism. Don't ask me what your macros are. I will answer other questions, but unless I know you more personally and know your history and know how your body works, that's not something I can answer. And so if you want to learn, though, if you want to learn about macros, you want to know proper combination, the combo lock I talked about, the 3 combo lock, then put you know, combo lock below. If you want to learn the proper macro knowledge, then put combo lock below. If you want to learn about inflammation, put 21 below. If you want to learn properly how to do macro-based eating, put FFF below, right? So there's a lot of resources and support that can help you. So hopefully that helps. Oh, FFF, yes, Cindy. Actually, I think the FFF would be really good for you, Cindy. I was actually thinking about that. So awesome. We will reach out to those of you who indicated it. Hopefully that was helpful. You know, like, again, I have actually other macro lives if you know, look kind of through the guide section, but none of them, I'm going to say it again, not one of them. You can watch 5 of them and not one of them will tell you exactly what your macros are. So stop thinking about having that. Just know that you will understand generally what the macro is about. And then now you have the knowledge to go, okay, I have to make a decision now. Do I want to just generally be healthy? You can be generally healthy, not knowing macros. But if you go, I want to dial my physique, I want to like really lower fat percentage, and I really want to build up my muscle, then I would say you have to kind of know your macros. Do you have to do macros forever? No, but you want that as a tool in your toolbox so that you can always come back to it. And it's like the little screwdriver where you can like always grab your macro knowledge and be like, tweak, 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 you know, and you can tweak yourself back into shape, right? But if you don't have that in your toolbox, you're not able to tweak your physique back to the way that you want, right? So hopefully that makes sense and that added value to all of you, and I will see you next week.